So a couple of days ago, I was sitting there and having a conversation with somebody in real life, face to face. We were, just trying to have a brief little debate. And their main source of contention was that they felt that science wasn't necessarily something that they could trust. This mostly stemmed from us having a conversation about climate change. Now, I absolutely do believe in, not that it necessarily matters, but I believe in, I support, and I advocate for the theory of anthropogenic climate change. That we as human beings are impacting the climate, we are causing these things to occur, a warming of the planet that is leading us to higher and higher global trending temperatures. And that we need to do something about it because we are facing down an existential threat. He does not. He posed the basic argument, the counter-argument, that we cannot know or understand the ways in which cosmic forces, the fluctuations in the sun, could impact the global temperature of our planet. Or that perhaps even there is a natural rhythm and cycle of warming and cooling on the planet that we can't really quite quantify or understand. So it's very likely that this whole warming of the planet that we're experiencing is either fake, for one, he did mention that, or two, is something that is beyond our control. So I began the usual thing that I try and do, and I explained the science behind it. I explained how we gain empirical data. I explained how his assumptions are, very incorrect, that we can actually understand quite a lot about the fluctuations of the sun, that we can actually understand the fluctuations of our sun because we also study further away stars. We have a very good grasp on these types of things. When we go and we look at the geological record, we can see the patterns of warming and cooling on the planet, and we can see where those often tend to come from and why. We can understand these things. It's not that they're unknowable. I gave the example that when we had a much more oxygen-rich environment, we had massive bugs all over the goddamn planet, and that's because there was things that were different. Yes, but why were they different? We do know very well. And that overwhelmingly, there is evidence that we are causing climate change. I asked him how he felt about GMOs. He said that he thought GMOs were a perfectly fine technology and possibly one of the best techniques to use to feed the planet. Good answer. I explained that there was even more scientific consensus of global man-made climate change than there are for the safety of GMOs, even though they are also overwhelmingly safe. I asked him about vaccine safety. He said, yeah. No, I'm not some crazy anti-vaxxer. I don't believe in that crap. The evidence overwhelmingly shows that vaccines are safe. I'm like, that's right. There's even higher percentage of agreement in the scientific community of man-made climate change than there are vaccine safety, even though vaccine safety is overwhelmingly proven to be safe. We had this conversation, yet still he persisted. And I asked him, well, exactly why don't you necessarily believe that we might not be the cause of climate change? And he explained, he said, well, see, the thing is, science can be manipulated. True. That's true. That's absolutely true. Of course science can be manipulated. Of course. But is it, though? That's the question. How exactly would it be manipulated, I ask? He says, well, data can be misinterpreted. It could, and it has, sure. But is it, though? Is there anything else, though, that you might also have a bit of a problem with? He says, yes. Scientists are still people, and they can interpret things, the data, in ways that the data doesn't show. I said, that's true. That has happened. Absolutely. Of course it can. Now, can I explain why that doesn't happen now? Or at least in this instance? He says, sure. All right. It's very, very simple. In order for this to actually work, in order for there to be a misinterpretation of data and science in all of the things that we've done to prove that man is causing climate change, would mean that thousands upon thousands upon thousands of studies don't work purely on the fundamental principle that the people who are doing it are dumb. And they're not dumb. They're very smart. And to just say that they might just be dumb is kind of strange when the person making the claim themselves is not actually a climate scientist. So that is kind of strange, because science is only as strong as our ability to repeatedly test and to prove. We want to challenge these things that we otherwise claim to be factual, because we want to make sure they're factual. That's why we test them. That's why we put them to the test. That's why we try and break these things. We make models, scientific models, to break them. And if we can't, then we know it's probably true. That's how it works. Because of the sheer amount of studies and analysis and data sets and empiricism that we have on global climate change, man-made global climate change, would require an infestation of nothing but the dumbest motherfuckers on the planet are the ones doing all of these studies. It doesn't seem very likely to me. He says, well, I guess not. So more to the next point. The next point is very, very simple. Maybe they're lying. Maybe all of this resistance information that's out there, that's the truth. And the things that everybody's putting out there as the consensus is in fact the lie. It's all a lie. You call it whatever you want. You don't want to sound like a crazy person. Don't call it like the global elites or the reptoids or the blah, 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 blah. Call it whatever you want. To that, there's a very simple answer. If that were to be the case, it would require a global conspiracy that has existed for over 150 years, maybe longer, that involves millions of people, millions and millions of people, all with the direct black intent in their heart to specifically mislead the entire world. Millions of people, and not one of them is talking. And if maybe it's one of those weird wingnuts out there, statistically speaking, how much would that be by comparison for how many people it would require to all look at the truth and then say, nah, I'm going to tell a lie? And that's the weight of the argument there. And that's the thing that you can even mention to people that's very, very simple. Look, whether or not you think we're causing it or not, you can't argue the science of what we understand. You can't argue the fact that the planet is warming up. It is. You can't argue the fact that we are having an impact on it. It is. Because to claim otherwise, you have to then embrace a conspiracy theory of either incredibly stupid scientists, they're all stupid scientists, apparently, or they're all lying and anybody that has anything to do with them, or publishing studies, or doing any of the funding for it, or even just basic citizen scientists who just kind of looked at it themselves, are all in on a giant global conspiracy that has existed for 150 plus years. I ask my friend, does this sound reasonable? He says, no. Doesn't sound very reasonable. I can kind of see your point. But I don't know. And I don't know if I can know. I said, that's fine. That's fine. Look, man, I'm not going to try and convince you. I'm not going to sit here and I'm just going to try and convince you that you need to just blindly accept these things. I think that you should look it up yourself. He says, yeah, but then I have to look at the science too. And what if I think the science is a lie? Then you need to ask yourself one very simple question. If science is not right, what do you replace it with? And he never gave me an answer. So I just wanted to take a quick little minute and give a little bit more context. My friend that I had this conversation with is not a dumb person. In fact, they're very smart. But this also highlights what I think is a very, very common problem, which is whereas we might have some people in our lives who do believe in science and empiricism, maybe because of either politics or because of propaganda or just because of an overflow of things that they see on social media, there's one aspect of science that they just don't trust. And I think this is very common. And in fact, if you have somebody in your life who is very similar to this, please, by all means, tell me about it in the comments down below. Climate change is real. It is real. If you are interested in perhaps having more resources to well-verse yourself, if you have to have a confrontation with somebody in your life about it, I do have links in the description down below. Hopefully those help. If you'd like to support the channel in any way, you can always make sure and hit the like button and subscribe, all that good stuff. There's other further support stuff in the description down below. But from my family to yours, I hope you are well. I hope they are well. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.